Everybody looks so lively. I know. It's just, oh, that's just sad, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, I think we're
Mine says live on YouTube.
Yep. I
Yes,
think we're good to go right now. And okay, I got to get back to my Zoom screen though. There we go. Okay.
There's Mr. Clint.
Okay, it's 9 o'clock. Let's call this meeting to order. Alex, you're up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, time we met, Paragon finished the design development phase. So we've officially finished design to both Ari Smith and to Barry Lawrence. There's been tweaks since then, of course, but the big picture was kind of set. Ari Smith has spent those last 2 weeks cost estimating. We've talked to the city, figured out city requirements, utilities. We've talked about sidewalks, all kinds of things. The point of us coming to you today was to present that cost estimate, let you know where we fall in relation to decisions made and projected costs, and then ask for any of your feedback or direction. No direction would be perfectly fine, but just know that we're looking for it if it's there. And with that, I was gonna basically turn it over to Clint to present the cost estimate. Gina, I don't know if you've turned on screen sharing.
Oh, do I have to do that?
Let me see if I can share it.
Yep. It may be automatically turned on.
It says one participant. Yeah, there we go.
Perfect.
Great. All right, so yeah, let's jump right in here. Let me turn this off so I can get some more power going on my computer. All right. So this is just our spreadsheet. This is the condensed version, more for us speaking together. Let me move this. Okay. So hopefully you can see this Monette Branch Library DD estimate. Everybody see that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Great. So what you see here is essentially the way these are broken down for bidding. The big thing to notice is this number, that is bid package 03. That just breaks down, that's concrete. And then this was what we based everything on originally. That would be our schematic design cost. And that's here. So this 326,109, that was what we estimated at schematic design. Changes that we made, and we'll go over a few of these things as we go. The amount here of 6,370 during DD is actually a culmination of, as Alex said, meeting with the city was the biggest thing. We had actually identified some cost savings during design development that equated to quite a bit of money, and came back, the city, and I hope it's okay to bring this up, Gina Joyce, on, is that okay to talk about the,
yeah.
Okay. The sidewalk at the right-of-way, so along both of the roads adjacent to our property, the city would like to see a sidewalk there, but there's potentially a cost sharing that they're gonna help out with. This does not take into consideration that cost sharing. So right now we're showing an increase of $6,370. What I'm going to say out loud is if the city cost shares with us, that goes away. The next few items here, as you can see, bid package 4, that's masonry, 5 is steel. Neither of those changed. We were able to maintain those exactly as we were during our original design. Bid package 6, which is millwork. We did some fancy stuff. I'm going to use fancy quite a bit here. We made the building more aesthetically pleasing in this area, and it added a little bit here, about $6,400. Next thing here is roofing. This was kind of a big thing that we were hoping to be able to do for about this much money, and we were able to. We actually increased the R value of the roof, took it from about a 19 to a 25. So that's a a larger number, but it's a very good value in long-term and longevity. '08, this is glazing, storefronts, things like that. A couple of things that we had discussed as a team was making sure we were good, making sure that we gave egress or ingress into the building with our public. So one of the items in this is adding some auto operators on the doors. So you'll have a handicap push button, doors will automatically open. Another few things that we did in here was we added some nicer vision areas within the building. And Alex, please jump in. Joyce, Gina, everybody jump in here as I walk. I'm not perfect on this.
We can jump into any of those things. So far, Clint is summarizing everything the same way I would. We can go in depth on anything you'd like to.
Perfect. Wow. I'm going to write that one down. The next thing here in 9, this is sheetrock. Again, we start off in that schematic design as very basic. We got to get in the building for this amount. This is where we're at. Again, just adding some pretty fancy stuff to make the building more livable, make it more of a showpiece. Most of these next 2 things here, these are things that are going to make this building more, more homey, more like a building where people are going to want to come in and see. So again, 9A, we left that one pretty well. That one's painting. We knew that we were going to have some fairly nice painting, so we left that alone. 9B, this is, 9A was flooring. We did not change flooring at all. Design team and Barry Lawrence, Gina, and Joyce had given us great direction to start with, so there was no reason to change. Next one was and on this, what we did was there was some, it really just comes down to adding some wall covering. A couple places that we felt needed some tackable surfaces, things like that. When we're done, we'll kind of hit the big ones, but those are the small ones for now. As we get down into these items, this is site and then mechanical, electrical, and plumbing and fire sprinkler. The 21 here didn't change. That was our fire sprinkler. Those costs have stayed fairly clear and present, haven't changed very much with the economy. 22 is plumbing. We actually got a deduct somehow on some plumbing fixtures. Don't know how. I took it. I was excited. Next one here is HVAC. And of all the things that we discussed today, this is kind of the unrideable horse at this point in time. Throughout the world, we are seeing increases daily and decreases hourly. So it's a moving target, to say the least. We added 50,400.
What I would say is, in previous discussions on the cost estimate, we had identified steel as kind of the problem area. We made a whole bunch of decisions to minimize that impact. And then since that time, the HVAC industry has become even more volatile. So while we've controlled everything we can on steel, a new problem child is essentially HVAC. There's with how fast things are moving, there's no way to make decisions that there's no control. We can't control that particular part of it until we get the bids, and that's really our only time to change anything. Is that accurate, Clint?
Absolutely. Like I said, this one, usually people hold their prices at least here for about the last 6 months, for about a week. These guys are saying we will hold it till the end of the day. So it's a very hard target. Next one here is electrical, 26. We went basic on schematic design. This increase here that you see of 77,200, this is making the building look like something you want to come into. It's no longer a 2x4 regular old ceiling fixture light that you see in every building you go into. We put these fixtures, they're called a linear fixture. They give a lot of depth. They're just nicer. And we definitely felt that was something that we needed to do. So we increased that there. These next 2 things are kind of exciting. They can actually tie into something up here also. So originally we had thought that our site, and we had kind of discussed it at the last board meeting, had quite a bit of fall or rise depending on how you look at the site. We had thrown in some retaining walls, some a little bit of grading to make sure that we covered all that stuff. Well, after we all got together and the civil engineer and Alex and everybody got together, we were able to actually just take those retaining walls out completely. That actually saved us $74,000, which offsets quite a few of the costs that we had increased, and then also saved ourselves some asphalt in the way that we had come up with the design. Mostly, I'm not sure if that was you, Alex, or the civil, or Gina, Joyce.
But we can give credit to one of the people in our office who just kind of asked the question and changed the perspective on site design. Thank Toth for then revising it to that point. And give some credit to Gina and Joyce because they looked at us and said, well, that's the way we thought you were going to do it from the beginning. So everybody just kind of by luck met up at the same point.
And yeah, perfect. And you can see that number. That's a pretty big number. That's a deduct of $52,000. So that was a great cost savings. The other things here are really negligible. Nothing jumps out too badly. One thing that I like to show, and we had discussed during our last cost estimate, some of the things that, at least the way we break it down. So this kind of shows you where we had our savings. So we saved from our initial schematic design $224,000. We increased about $326,000. There's some other things that I didn't put in here that, in my opinion, I think we would have changed during DD. So I didn't really give us credit for that. This was actually where we started out on our DD cost estimate. Now, Gina, Joyce, Alex, you guys stop me whenever you want me to, as far as talking about anything past this. Some things that we identified too was on the kitchen equipment. We had held out quite a bit of money in an allowance just to make sure that we covered everything we knew, because we didn't know anything. Once everybody, got together, made sure of exactly what we were looking at as far as costing, we were able to delete about $125,000 from that amount. The other one was we had set aside quite a large owner allowance, just because during schematic, you have no idea. We don't know what we're going to do, where we're going to pull it from. We were able to delete that or reduce that by another $75,000. So this is a point. If you guys want me to stop and you want to talk about it, holler it out. Are you good?
What I would summarize is kind of combine all of those together just verbally.
Yeah.
The savings in DD, we followed the directions that both the board and Gina and Joyce had given us since the schematic design phase. We were able to save, if I'm adding this up right, about $425,000. Then the changes that we made during design of adding features, adding the focal points to the teen and the children's sections, really clarifying finishes and surfaces, we increased by 326. So while it's a net decrease, we still had changes that led to cost and scope changes. We wanted to show you this to say that while the numbers are relatively similar between SD and DD, there's been a ton of work, a ton of discussions, great feedback from Gina and Joyce to get us to where we are, even though 6.15 and 6.12 is very different. There's a lot of work that's in there.
And one of the big discussions that we had was on the lighting. And just so the board knows, we looked at everything in lighting and we made sure that everything is LED, everything is as cost effective as possible based on what we've used in Cassville, which has saved us a good deal over the years by using LED. So everything we put into there was to save us future money to operate this building.
And that same point, I would make what Clint said on the roof and the insulation, an increased upfront cost, but it helps with utility costs and just patron comfort over time.
And I kind of pulled that electrical plan up here. So initially what happens in SD, we design to these fixtures. Your basic LED, it's what you see in every single building. And like we said, it's we didn't want to make this a building that you walk in and you don't want to stay in. So these areas that you kind of see highlighted with these linear fixtures, these trapezoidal fixtures, they increase cost, obviously, but they also make the building feel better. And the only real thing that I want to add to what we've done, I would say, is being stewards of your money, me getting to look at it from a cost perspective. This is where I started out in SD, 6151. I always have about 15 to 20% that I think we're going to be working with overages from what our budget is. We're looking at right now a revised DD estimate of 6.123. This is actually lower than where we were on SD, not taking into consideration our bidding, our bidding portal. Obviously, we can't look at that, but this is, I would say, in recent history, probably one of the better outcomes during DD with as much as we increased. So this is the time I get to say, great job, team, and good job. So.
I do have a question. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought we set the budget at 6 million. So do we have to do something since it's over?
You would just have to approve this amount.
So yeah, so going back to the SD cost estimate and then our strategy cost estimating, when we discovered all of these, again, I'll use the word volatile market changes in the Q1 of 2021, we basically said, we're going to take a very conservative approach to cost estimating and take the worst case scenario across the board that we can. We know that there's going to be some bid packages that come in lower just because some of the problems that we're facing will hopefully resolve by the time we bid, but also because we've been so conservative, all of it reaching those levels all at the same time would be very unlikely. What we hope is that steel will be resolved by that point and we come in under. We hope, I don't believe this is going to happen, but HVAC will hopefully be in a better spot. I doubt that. And then just that our conservative strategy for everything else comes in under. We know that the budget is 6 million total project. No questions asked there. I think we need to know from the board if we are okay to move forward or if we need to revise the building scope so that the estimate matches budget. Is that Clint and Gina, is that a good way of saying it?
I think
Joyce,
so.
when we had our cost estimate meeting on Tuesday, I think it was, we could have removed more items. The problem is that when we start removing things, we start removing the cool stuff that makes the building unique. So for example, in the children's department, we've planned some columns that look like trees, and it's expensive, to make a column look like a tree. We can remove that, and it's just a plain children's area, and it'll be fine. It's still functional. But, when we're spending this much on a building, you kind of want to have some of those unique features.
Right.
So knowing that we're pretty close to the 6 million mark, and it's possible that we'll actually drop under that once we go to bid, we told them that we didn't want to remove anything until we had a discussion with you all about it. But we certainly could trim, things off, but just know when we start doing, if we do that, we're trimming all those unique things, the cool light fixtures, the children's department items. And it just is what it is. So
I thought we had set the 6 million mark as the amount we would borrow, not the budget on the building.
it was the budget on the building.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at that SD meeting, Paragon and Ari Smith requested and said, hey, in order for us to move into the next phase of design, we need to know what the target is so that we can make decisions to hit it. If it's a constantly moving number, we'll never be able to make decisions to get there. So knowing that 6 million was, and that's part of why we were talking about the two numbers. Hey, we've saved all this money, but then we increased all these other things. We were making all of those decisions to get to the 6 million number, and things changed.
And we were able to trim quite a bit, you know,
Mhm.
especially like with the kitchen, in saying, you know, where we started and where we've ended up is vastly, I mean, it saved a lot of money because we decided we don't need a catering kitchen. And when you start buying residential, commercial-ish fixtures like a stove and stovetop and so forth, then or an oven and a stovetop, it's vastly cheaper. So we went
The
from
other-
what, like $200,000 to like 15?
Yeah.
Right.
On kitchen equipment alone, we went from 145 to 20.
20, yeah.
Mm.
Wow.
And it may even be less than that. We just are
Right.
estimating high. So, you know, if you want us to trim 123,000, we can, but I think Clint's gonna work really hard to get us under that number, right?
Yeah,
Everybody will be.
yeah, everyone. I think the thing to remember too, if I was to come in here and tell you this building's going to cost 5.9, and we went to bid and it bid 6 million, you'd be mad at me. I will never steer us astray. I think our 123, that is a negligible number. On a $6 million building, that's nothing. I think at this point, if we start cutting things like Gina said, we will never have the opportunity to have those in the building. I would rather keep them in there, bid this thing out, and then say, okay, well, we know how we can cut this money, and be able to do that in that first week with no detriment to us continuing moving forward. So we know what those items are. It's a bad thing to take things out that, like Gina said, are making it the heart, you know, of the building. So we'll get there.
So what
The other
you're
thing-
saying, Clint, is that this would be the highest that it could be then. So that's, if we accept this, that's the most we would pay.
And if we keep the budget at 6, what I'm saying is if we go to bid and we come in at 6.1, we know the items that we can take out to get to 6. I think the answer that we're looking for today is, hey, let's keep going, knowing that our budget's 6 and hoping that that's what we're going to bid at. But knowing come bid time, we may be a little over, but we still can come back and have this meeting and say, okay, yes, we love the trees. We really want them, but we know how much they cost. Let's take them out. Boom, that money's gone. We've already reduced it. So it's just a hard thing to have these things in now and know we want them or hope to have them, and then go to bid without them and then have to add them later if we come in under when we bid.
There's 2 other things I would point out. Number one, that 6.12, $100,000 of that is contingency. So we're at 6.02 if there was no contingency. In addition, if, let's say, everything goes the way we don't want it to, bids come in really high, we VE a bunch of stuff, we pull things out. You've then still got that contingency that after a certain point in construction, you could say, is it possible to bring that back? Because you've got $100,000 that you could use. And the big turning point for us as a design company is after everything's in the ground, after all of the subgrade work is done. So we haven't discovered any mines, any sinkholes, the ground was okay, everything's good. At that point, that money that we've set aside to deal with it becomes available for other things in the project at your discretion. So I would say that we've tried to set it up the most flexibility, the most control, and the most ability to get as much as possible at the end while still being as safe as possible along the way. I'm assuming that's a good.
Either
Good job, Mike.
either everybody's in shock or they're
No, I think it's worthwhile just to leave things alone until we see how things go. Yeah, I'm with Alex and Clint on this.
I agree.
we have too much invested in it to quibble, as it were, about $100,000. I mean, when we thought this was going to cost us 2 million, a number of years ago, it would have been inconceivable to go 6 million, but now we're going 6 million. What's 6 million one?
Right.
I told them that if it was like 6.5, you guys would say cut something out, but 6.1,
Yeah,
we're so
absolutely.
close.
Yeah.
And I forgot, and I think the contingency is a good point, that we're really at 623.
Well, and several of these areas that we're talking about are areas that when we seriously start fundraising, these are areas that we're really going to emphasize. If a company, if an individual would like to sponsor a particular area in the building, they have broken it out to where we can say, this is what we're estimating this, but if you'd like to sponsor this room, this is what it would be. So it's highly possible, we really hope, that we will get people that the extras are the ones that they want to sponsor, that they want to add to that building to make it unique. So those are good selling points when it comes, time to do serious fundraising.
Yep.
I agree. In the scheme of things, it's not going to make that big a difference. And we haven't even approached anybody for,
Right.
So I'm not afraid of it.
I'm not either.
So we
think
need
have a good
we need a
plan.
vote for it.
Yeah, you need a motion to approve the revised budget.
I would just say moving forward, we know that the board budget is 6 million. The budget can stay 6 million. We know the target, we know what we're working towards. The direction from the board is, even knowing that the estimate is coming in at 6.12, we are still to move forward even though the budget stays 6.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Move.
Deborah, thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
We need a second, Wendy. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Thank you.
carried.
We're going to work hard to keep that trust.
And y'all, we've come up with a really good design. I'm really excited, and I think you're going to be really pleased with how things have turned out.
And when do we get to see that design, Alex?
I need to share that design package with them. Even though we've made some changes, we've made a few changes to shelving arrangement, and we've had to increase the corner of the building and decrease the size of the patio to make it work. But it's not vastly different. So
If you guys want, I can put together a presentation for next month's board meeting and just show all of those steps in between. This board meeting for us was, there's just been so much going on, and to hit the estimate almost the same as SD, it was almost like a sigh of relief. And then where do we need to go from here? We started construction documents on Monday this week. And this meeting, this point was our point to either just stay the course or start making very different decisions and changes. I will have plenty of time to put together a presentation next month.
okay, I'll put you on the agenda for that. And
Wonderful.
Clint, I don't remember the timeline. When do we go out for bid?
We had quite a large time for me to put bidding documents together. I ain't like everybody else. My bidding time to put my stuff together is really short. I'm very fast. I've done it for a lot of years. What I want to say is that we're going out to bid in June.
Okay.
Middle of June to late June. What I'm looking at right now is that Alex is going to get me every single thing that I need to put all my bid packages together around the end of May. And then it's going to take me a hard week and a half, 2 weeks to get everything put together, get the advertisements out to everybody in the papers and the internet, all that good stuff. And then at the latest would be that third week of June. depending on how, so Paragon did a really good job of putting together so much information that was very good during the DD stage that our CD stage is really just tweaking. We took such a good jump from SD to DD. So the information that I've already received has actually allowed me to start doing my bid packages. So I've gotten a jump on that. It's really just going to be, okay, I need X, Y, and Z to finish off this, or, you know, A, B, and C to finish off this. So I may even ask for something to go out early depending on where we're at, because it's so close right now. So it would.
I
The other
just
thing
know that once we start turning dirt, that's going to really help our fundraising efforts, because what I hear right now, because we've taken so long to do this, is, are you really going to do it?
Right. One thing you
And I mean, legitimately, I understand the community,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
this is like what, our really our third try. So third time's a charm. That's what I'm going with. So
if you want to, something that I usually do at this stage, and Alex probably, I know that he does because we've worked on projects together, this is about the time we put a project sign up. On your prominent corner, maybe on the site, maybe on the corner there, and then also maybe down at the other end. Usually once you see that sign go up, people are going to get more excited. They're going to know, hey, this is actually moving forward. So
The other thing, and I'll caution about telling anybody about when it's going to turn dirt. Something that we've talked about is watching the steel market very, very closely. And if we, in 1 month, do we benefit? And if we can save $100,000 waiting 1 month, that's absolutely worth it. So
yes.
we're trying to move and design the building as quickly as possible, but there may be a reason to then essentially just stop for a month and do nothing and wait.
Yeah.
Okay. We trust you to guide us the way we need to.
Okay, so are they going to answer these questions? Will
No, we
bidders
need-
be?
No, we need to do that.
Well, I don't know what E-Verify documentation means.
Okay, so E-Verify is what we do as an employer. It's a voluntary program. And basically what E-Verify does is certify that the people that you hire are legal to work in the US. And so my assumption would be that you would want that to be part of the big bid package. But I wanted to hear from you. It is kind of a process. You have to sign up online and you have to run everybody through with the forms and have ID and all that kind of stuff. So
it's very common on public projects, on school projects that we work on, governmental. It's a voluntary program, same as the Buy America. It's just, we need to know, because number one, it impacts pricing just a little bit. And then in addition, we need to know design changes. If it's Build America, we need to make some design changes pretty quickly, as far as making sure that all the documents are lined up to comply. In the specific case of Build America, or Buy America, I'm sorry, what we're requesting is we can design and select products and manufacturers that meet that intent without following the bureaucracy or the paperwork of the actual program. It's kind of like LEED. You can design a green building, but you have to go through a whole bunch of steps to hit LEED certification.
I would say,
go ahead, Clint.
I was going to say, of those two items, E-Verify will have less of an impact on our job than Buy America will. And I would just throw that out there.
Well, actually, E-Verify had a big impact in Marionville when we did that project. The builder that we had did not do that. Half of their bricking crew was deported, and it held the project up 3 weeks till they could find somebody else to fill those positions that could be E-Verified. So it does impact sometimes those projects.
It will not impact any of my contractors. I promise
That's
you.
good. It did before.
Yeah.
Well, I told them about the build or buy, I'm doing it too, Alex, the Buy America program. The Buy America program basically is you have to buy everything from America. Even if it's a subsidiary, right? In America, they can't use it. So what I told them is that your preference would be that we buy things American, and they would work to do that outside of this program. So we just wanted to verify that that was okay with you, and they'll try to do as local as possible too, but we don't want to hurt our project by not being able to get the best materials.
Right. And I will also say with everything COVID related, it already has motivated us to buy American anyway, because lead times and costs are insane overseas. So there's a whole bunch of things pushing us towards, we're already going to be doing most of those efforts anyway.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so just to be clear, we are going to require E-Verify documentation, but not Buy America.
Yes,
Okay,
Do we need a motion for that?
I think it would be good since we have it on the agenda.
Okay,
I make a motion.
Thank you, Julie.
I'll second it.
thank you, Jan. All in favor of,
Aye.
I guess we're not repeating it. Any opposed?
So yes to E-Verify, no to Buy America, but they want you to buy American if at all
American.
possible.
Got it.
Okay,
That's all we have, folks.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks,
You.
guys.
We'll look
Thank
forward to
you.
seeing you next meeting, Alex.
Absolutely.
You'll be an unofficial member of the board.
Well, I'm honored.
Ex officio, is that what they say?
I'm honored. Thank you all. Have a good one.
Thank you,
All
guys.
right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
You.
Okay. Minutes of January, February, and February. Has everyone read them?
Mhm.
yes.
Okay, so shall we vote on January's first? All in favor of accepting the minutes of the January 21st meeting?
Do we need a
Or do
motion?
we, yeah, we need a
Yeah,
motion.
we
I guess.
didn't have a
I think you
motion.
could do,
Oh,
couldn't you do a
Katie?
motion for
Yeah,
all of them?
I'll make that. Can we do it all together?
I think so. I think we have in the
Okay.
past.
Let's do.
Okay, I move that we
Okay.
accept all minutes.
I'll
Need a
second.
second? Deborah,
Yes.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Motion carried. Financial report.
Okay, so we have collected year to date 1.9 million in current tax. Yay.
Yay.
So that's about 700,000 more than, or 650 more than we did last year. And we're ahead on delinquent. And then everything else is running close. Our surcharge is about the same. Our financial institution tax is a little bit more, and our railroad and utilities a little bit more, but not dramatically so. So we're in pretty good shape as far as taxes go. And I think we had a little bit more that came in this month. And then beginning with the April collections, we will have no more current tax or anything like that. So we've collected the bulk of what we're going to collect. And then everything else is pretty much just as normal for the month as far as our fines, or not fines, actually, it's our copier and fax fees and grant funds and all that sort of thing. So for the month, we've collected $931,023.75. And you can see we're quite a bit ahead of where we were this time last year in collections. So then if you go down to expenditures, I don't think there's I don't really think there's anything to point out, is there, Joyce? It's pretty much.
No, not
business.
really. Most of the things that are yearly fees and things are pretty standard for this time of the year.
Yeah. And if you go down to 7602, which is the Monette building expense, you'll see $82,000. That was architect fees. So they break things down. I mean, the architect fees are expensive. That'll be a couple $100,000 by the time it's said and done. And part of that was the, I believe, was the long range plan for building.
Right. Yeah, it was separated out.
So if you take that 82,000 out, then we're right in line where we usually spend for the month. So we have a healthy checking operations again at 1.9, almost $2 million. And then our reserve funds, we have 721,000. Of course, the Monette funds are starting to decrease because we're spending those. And I'll probably have to start cashing some of our CDs, because a lot of that's held in CDs, not in liquid cash. So as we have things that come due, until we borrow money. But we're in much better shape than we were at the end of the year when I was scared. So of course, the scariest thing is not knowing what they're going to allow us to collect in the upcoming fiscal year, but we'll just hold our breath and hope that it's, not too bad. So.
Okay.
And do we have to use the allotted funds first? Or can we just use what we have in our checking account? So you don't have to cash in the CDs and stuff.
Well, of course, the CDs are separated out for specifically that fund from Monette. So you actually have to use the money that was set aside for Monette, whether it was a CD or the checking account. It has to come out of that. The rest of it is budget money, and so you can't touch that for Monette.
Okay.
You would have to actually approve, like we do at the end of the year, assigned funds. You would have to assign funds to go into the building fund, because that's a totally separate fund from our checking.
And it's the same way with, there's another one set up for Shell Knob, and it's the same thing for that. Everything has to come specifically out of that money that was put aside for Shell Knob, advertising, stuff like that. It all has to, because it's all audited separately. And that money can never be mixed with general funds.
Okay.
So would it be beneficial to assign funds to that, or that's not necessary? Like you're good with cashing in the CDs and all of that?
Well, of course, the CDs are long-term. I mean, we've had them for years. They're not going up in value any. We've not added any interest to it. Yeah. So, I mean, actually, right now, it probably behooves us just to take those, and right now you're not going to have to take all of them or anything. Some of them are smaller than others. So it'll kind of come down to what bill we're paying as to what we need to take out. So actually it's probably not helping us one way or the other, because the interest rates are dismal right now.
I mean, most of them earn less than 0.5%.
Yeah, it's really, but there again, we don't add the interest back to that until we actually cash the CD. So most of these are worth quite a bit more than what you're looking at on the budget, because that's not the way we do it. We don't add the interest until we collect the interest. I mean, it's added back to them, but for our records, it's all, even until we cash that in.
Okay. So we need a motion to accept the financial report, please. Wendy, thank you. And Jan, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Circulation statistics.
Okay, so keep in mind that we were closed a lot in February. So you can see that we were open an average of 13 days across the 10 or the 9 branches. So in all honesty, 14,285 is pretty good considering we were only open for 13 days. On our ebook circulation, we were at 2479 for MoLib to go, which I'm a little surprised we were under where we were in February of the previous year. But you can see in Hoopla, we are 700 over, which is pretty good when you, and then of course that translates to money. And then you can see with Ancestry, we're just having hardly any use of Ancestry at all. So I've canceled, we're not renewing Ancestry. So I'm really pleased with I feel like some of our e-circulation makes up for our physical circulation. And of course, our computer use was directly impacted by not being open. So we only had 994 computer uses and 374 wireless use, which makes sense, all things considered. We had 110 programs with attendance of 2320. So that's pretty good, all things considered. I think we came out of February fairly unscathed with our statistics, considering the horrible weather. That's about the worst that we've had in several years in terms of having to close and have shortened hours and so forth. So on the branch activity report, I don't really have much to say. I think the branches are doing a really good job of trying to put together passive programs when they can't do actual physical programs. So when you see the grab and go book club or the make and take crafts, those are all things that people can take and go home and do on their own. And the make and take crafts have really proven to be quite popular.
Yeah.
So I think families really enjoy that. And I think, I was trying to remember somewhere somebody made a comment about that. Oh, it was in Aurora. Yeah, the mother said that she was not crafty, but she and her children had great fun with the kit, which I see I misspelled several things there. Sorry about that. And then I also want to point out, I thought this was a nice story, and I included it because Leanne can use this with her grant follow-up, but in Mount Vernon, I thought that was a nice story about the patron's husband who had COVID. He needed to work from home, so they checked out an internet hotspot. He passed away, unfortunately, but her kids that came home were able to use that hotspot to stay and help her out. And she was thankful that they had that service. So that's exactly why we need those hotspots. So, and on the hotspots, I don't know if you saw or not, but part of the Rebuild America, whatever Biden's calling his COVID plan, I don't remember, a lot of money was given to IMLS and to, oh shoot, the bigger, I just went totally blank, the other organization that does entertainment and arts and so forth. National Endowment for the Humanities.
Right.
They both got funds because, as you know, artists and musicians and librarians were hit really hard with COVID. In many cases, harder than the restaurant industry was, because they couldn't work at all. If you blow an instrument or sing, you're spreading germs. So at any rate, I was really glad. They said that this was the largest increase that the Institute for Museums and Library Services has ever seen. And just a FYI, the guy that's head of IMLS now is the former Kansas City Public Library director.
Yay. Oh.
So at any rate, so I think that benefits us to have a public library director who is also a businessman heading up that foundation, that organization. But Part of the money to IMLS is specifically to fund broadband infrastructure. And so I'm hoping, I don't know how that'll get administered to the state and then from the state to us, that some of that might be able to filter into the new building with our internet. And also, I definitely would apply for more money for hotspots because it's actually gone pretty well for us, other than the person that stole our hotspots here. But
Yeah.
at any rate.
Gina, are the craft kits available at all locations or just some of them?
They should be at all of them. I think all of them reported on having Take and Make crafts.
Okay. That would be a good marketing thing for Greg, for young families. I see a lot of families that aren't in this area, but other libraries, and they post pictures of their kids doing the make and takes. So it'd be a good PR thing if we could get the word out that there are make and takes.
Okay, I'll talk to him because we're always looking for new things to promote. So,
And we have a lot of low income young families in both of these counties. And for them, anything that's free that they can entertain their kids with right now is a valuable tool for them.
Yes. And we can encourage them to post and share, hey, I got this at my local library. And that's what these parents are doing in other districts. I was going to say, I've heard nothing but good things about MoLib to Go, the curbside delivery, and Hoopla. So
excellent.
I think we're doing good things there.
Evergreen is just, it's just on fire. If you could see the area that Julie has to work in, which is our office. I was not there, unfortunately, the other day, but they were talking about the delivery, and it was literally all the way back to my desk of things that she had delivered. They are really checking out from Evergreen. It has really turned into a real, hot item for our people to be able to borrow from.
And Joyce, you don't know this because you haven't been here, but yesterday we had a new driver from Evergreen.
She was telling me
and
about
he
Pat
picked
retired.
up every single box that has been sitting there for weeks.
Yeah.
So the other driver retired, thank goodness. And the guy that came in his place was horrified that he had not gotten all the material. So it all went. So
it is really interesting to see that.
It looked really weird because we had like room in the workroom to walk around each other. Usually you're dodging a book cart or a box or something.
Can't move around.
Are we seeing our materials coming back in good condition, or are we having trouble with that?
Oh, I don't think it's really, from what I've heard from the staff, I don't think it's really any different than what's coming back to our branches and our book drops and things like that. Every once in a while, probably some of the problems we've had are some of the items being loaned to us by other libraries. And sometimes you end up having to send them back when you get them because they're in such terrible, shape. You don't want to be responsible for checking those out to our patrons. But I haven't heard anybody really complain much. We're like every other library. We have to bill them for something that comes back to us that was our material, and a patron destroyed it. But I haven't really heard much complaint about that. Any great increase in the property that's being used. But like I say, Julie checks everything so closely when she gets things back, because we've probably collected more money from other libraries of things that their patrons tore up or lost or something like that, because I'm constantly depositing from other libraries now. So that, that's a sign of how things are being taken care of. But no, the answer was no, I don't really think that it's increased a great deal.
I read a book. I got a book recently. I think it came from Polk County or somewhere. And I was impressed. It was American Dirt. If anybody wants to read a book that you absolutely can't put down, just get it. And set off a day. But anyway, I was impressed because it had a note, probably from Julie inside, that said slight water damage on the title page, when it came to us. And I thought that is really, I hadn't seen that before. I thought that was really a good idea.
Yeah, they really try to make sure that, anything that comes from a branch that's already damaged, we make note of it, because we don't want to have to, we don't want to have to charge our patron for something that came to us that way.
Yeah.
So she's really conscientious about checking everything that comes in.
No, I think you're on mute.
Oh, I'm not.
Regina is.
Gina,
Oh.
yeah, we can't hear Gina.
There you go.
Director's report.
Okay, so just when you think that we're fully staffed, we're not. So we had one definite resignation and one that's coming from Mount Vernon. So Elizabeth Manzo resigned. She was going to give 2 weeks notice, but the place that she was going to work for wanted her to start right away. So at any rate, her last day was March 5th. And then bless her heart, she got COVID. So I don't know if she started or not. So Lynn Beeson, who is our part-time library assistant, adult services at Miller, and she also does Mount Vernon. Her daughter's having a baby, and so they want to live closer to them in Columbia, Missouri. So they put their house on the market and sold it, and so they'll be moving. Which we hate because she's been really good for that branch. But she said that she would stay through May. So I don't know her exact date, so it's coming. And we're going to reassign some of the hours, give some of the other part-time people the chance to have more hours if they'd like that. And then we'll post those positions once we decide how we'll shift things around. Then just a little bit of an update on the break-in here. We still don't know if they've got a lead, or they don't communicate with us. We communicate with them, but I did submit our information to our insurance carrier, which is nationwide. We have $1,000 deductible, and it did take me a while to sort of put together a list because they wanted lots of detail. In some cases, we've had stuff for so long, we don't have receipts for it. If you've had two for 20 years, do you keep a receipt for that? Or if we have a receipt, we'd have to go through 20 years worth of boxes to find it. And if you've seen our garage, you would know that's just not possible without a lot of effort. So at any rate, I did the best that I could. And I submitted a claim for a little over $12,000. After they depreciated and subtracted the deductible, we should get a check for $88.67 and 62 cents. If I send him as we replace items, if I send him the receipts, we may recover some of the depreciation, if I understood correctly. So I did go ahead and reorder all of the movie equipment because I wanted to make sure we have it in time, because we have like 14 or 15 movie schedules this summer. So that's really important that we keep that moving. Cassville, Mount Vernon, us, Marionville, and there may be others that come in with that, are all doing movies. So they were motivated because the Swank, which is one of the licensing companies, is offering, they're the only ones that license outdoor movies. They're offering us free licenses on certain movies, which let me tell you is a big deal. That's like $600-700 savings a movie. So, so they were pretty motivated to do that. So, okay, Mount Vernon. So I got a text from Cindy. I can't remember if it was Saturday night. I think it was Saturday night, saying that there was some black stuff coming up through the drains. Mike was watching it, the custodian was watching it, and she'd sent me some pictures, and it wasn't maybe a 2-foot diameter crud coming up from the drain. He cleaned it. When he went back Sunday, there was water coming in all the drains in the building. And Cindy said, in fact, that it was like a fountain in the maintenance room where it was coming up about 3 inches like a water fountain. So I called, that was Sunday evening, wasn't it, Joyce, that I
Yeah.
called you and you said to, so I called the emergency number for the water department and talked to, I think it was a young kid, and said, are you all having problems with your water backing up? This, what's going on? And he said, yeah, the manholes are running full. And I said, well, here's the problem. And I told him what was going on. And I said, is this like we call a plumber trying to get the drains clear? Is this your issue and it's backing up and we just have to live with it until it recedes, And he said, yeah, I think that's really what it is. He said, but I'll call my boss and I'll verify that. And then, so he did call me back in about 15 minutes. And his boss said the same thing, that it's just sort of a live with it situation. And he was going to go out and check the manholes again and then go over to the branch, because Cindy, her husband, and the custodian were all at the branch by this point. That's about 9 o'clock at night. And so there really wasn't anything we could do. It just kind of wait and see what happened. So they went on home. She said it smelled horrible. It honestly probably wasn't even safe for them to be in the building. I called ServPro first thing in the morning, told them what had happened. They jumped right on it. It has become more complicated. He had already warned me that if it was sewage, it's not a simple water extraction and cleaning. So then I called the insurance company, because obviously this is going to be really expensive. And we have Trogdon in agencies who our agent is. So I called them because I didn't have the number for nationwide. And it was a good thing, because when I talked to the agent there, she said, you really need to call the city. This is a city problem and they should really do this on their insurance. So I called the city manager, Max Springer, and he didn't even quibble with me. He apparently, after our conversation, hung up and called over to Trogdon and got it filed with their insurance, because I called over there right after to make sure it was going to happen. And any rate, I talked to the insurance agent with their insurance, who was very confused about who I was and who Max Springer was. And so I had to kind of clarify. So at any rate, they should be handling all that. So I don't know how to share, but I'm going to see if I can.
Yeah, has this happened before there, or is this just
No.
a thing?
In all the years that branch has been there, we if you know anything at all about Mount Vernon branch, it sits on a drainage ditch, which was free, that property. That's how we ended up with it. But it has never, I have seen water come to the top of that, but I've never seen it come in the building. And this didn't come in under the doors. This came in through the drainage system. But no, we have never had a problem like that in Mount Vernon. In fact, any of it. The newer ones all have that backflow, device that keeps that from happening. The age of the building in Mount Vernon, they did not use those.
So it was the bathrooms, which were relatively easy because it's tile, so that can be cleaned and sanitized. It went in part of the meeting rooms, the part of the children's department, the office area, and you can see behind the desk, I just put a picture up here. It went in the mechanical room and the magazine and nonfiction area. So I have some pictures to show you. That's the children's department. They started cutting out sheetrock yesterday. these are some of the storage pods because they've had to clear out the books and shelving in the damaged areas. I think this is nonfiction, isn't it, Joyce?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's over in the corner.
So are you saying it was sewage? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Mhm. And that's our new flooring. You know, that was the new flooring in the conference room.
So I just wanted you to kind of see what was going on. So I don't know yet the total extent. I just know yesterday they started cutting sheetrock because my understanding is, you know, it'll go under the base boards and seep up, and they have to cut it out and repair it. So they're going to be closed several more days, and we don't know yet how much flooring we need to order to replace. And then of course they're going to have to paint. So it is pretty extensive. I'm going to guess it's probably, what do you think, Joyce? $50,000-$60,000 worth of damage
Yeah,
at the
I would
very
say so.
least.
Yeah, I would say
So-
so, just manpower alone. But that was really a good thing because Gina and I were really, really sweating how on earth with our staff that we were going to, you know, be able to move all of this stuff. I mean, you know, we've got a lot of women and a lot of us are shot. And so, you know, you can't do, you know, you just can't do all the stuff we used to do. And several of them have respiratory problems. Well, there was absolutely no way that they could work in that building because that's a liability. So we were tickled to death to find out that ServPro was like, no, you don't do any of this. We do everything. And so we were tickled to death because we were like, okay, we dodged that bullet. So we'll
And
see.
Cindy
And they
Rinker
just
has,
got done with the roof.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Now all of a sudden, after all these years that Mount Vernon has been there, that we've had very few, and I hate to say that, but we had very few problems with that branch, probably the best branch we've ever had. And now, whether it's the top or the bottom, we can't stay dry.
so
It's just,
Cindy
it's
Rinker's
just
done a really
amazing.
good job of staying on top of things. She's really the
Mhm.
point of contact, and she checks in with them every day. She sends me pictures and gives me a report. And so we have, of course, they're, you know, because we've got Elizabeth Manzo out. And then Cindy Gulick also had COVID.
And she and
And
her
so-
husband both were positive
Yeah.
for COVID.
And
Oh.
she's released to come back to work, but she still doesn't feel like coming back to work. So, so we
Mhm.
didn't
And
have
she-
to worry about her, but we did reassign. Edwana is at Marionville, and then one of the other the two part-timers are trading off at Miller. They're working half days at Miller. So, because I said that, you know, we're not going to pay people to sit at home for this. They have to go somewhere else. So at any rate,
Do
it's
we
just
need to look for a backflow valve? Is that something we can add?
we have
Well,
one.
I'm not sure
I
that
thought.
that would be a good question, because retrofitting a building for something like that, I mean, it's in the floor plumbing, and I'm not sure exactly how you would retrofit that and add it, or even if you can, a lot of it has to do with the diameter of the pipes,
Mhm.
and what the pipes originally were made of, and that sort of thing. I mean, it's standard now in a building, especially commercial, it automatically goes. Our newer buildings, we have to have them
Yeah.
tested and they have to be certified every year.
Yeah.
And that all goes to the state to show that we're in compliance. But on a building the age of Mount Vernon, I honestly don't know. Katie, I guess we'd have to check with a plumber, or maybe even the city, you know, the city utility person over there would have to tell us if it's possible to retrofit.
Well, we
A
definitely
building like
don't
that.
want this to happen again. So if
Oh
we
gosh,
do something,
absolutely not.
because they might
I
not
mean-
cover it a second time.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I'm actually, well, there again, you know, I mean, it depends on the age of the building. If it wasn't, you know, if it wasn't a city ordinance then, we're grandfathered in, and whatever happens, happens. But we'll certainly find out whether we could retrofit it and how much it would cost us to do that.
The odd thing is that the ditches around the building didn't overflow.
No, it was coming straight from underground. Everything underground was full and took the runoff.
It was probably
Wow.
somewhere down the line, I bet. It's just
I'm
one
sorry.
of those weird freak things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've certainly never had that problem before. So we just don't know. I mean, I was absolutely freaked out last night when it started hailing, because all I could think about was the new roof over there. But as far as I know, they didn't have any damage. So we were good.
Then with the new Monette branch, as we talked about with Alex and Clint, we've been working really hard on the plans with them and trying to firm up those building. And they call, DDSD, blah, 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 which are design documents, schematic documents, and construction documents. But they have their lingo, and we just kind of nod. So I had kind of like a little assignment that they gave me. So I've talked to Federal Protection, to Avitas, and we've talked to Demco about putting together bid packages. We probably will go with Avitas because they're already our technology provider. They're the ones that would have to pull the cable and make sure all the whatever's in the right spots. Federal Protection is who we've always used, but it's conceivable that they might not win the bid, but they've been good to us so far. And by the way, we have talked to them about, and I need to follow up with them about doing protection at this building here as well. And then Demco is the furnishings, and they may or may not get the bid, but they do design stuff for free. So it's a good thing to start with them. And they're a long time library furnishings provider, and we've used them, and they've always been really, really good, and we get pretty good discounts with them. So they just estimated super high, and we're like, we're not going to spend that much money. And we guarantee we're not going to spend $800,000 on furnishings. I promise you. We're not.
Now, if you have to bring your own chair, that's what'll happen, because we can't spend that kind of money.
But I'll just give you, I'm just going to give you a really quick peek at some of the colors.
Gina, you mentioned the bids. Is that something, like I was thinking when he mentioned the HVAC, costs? I know somebody that does that and does it for commercial. Is that something that we can ask other people, or is that, like, can we not do that?
You can, but it has to go out for bid as part of the project. So you can tell them that the bid process is coming up, and they can bid on it.
Okay.
Because that person would be a subcontractor,
Yeah.
and the subcontractor would put in a bid to the general contractor.
Okay.
Which is
So
Clint.
that's how it would work.
Yeah.
And once the word gets out where you have a project this size, I can guarantee you that anybody of any significance at all in that line of work will put in a bid for that general contractor, because they're, all the subcontractors are looking for work too. But yeah, that's how they do it. They put in a bid to the general contractor. The contractor, adds that, whoever is chosen adds that to his overall bid.
Well, I just don't want to do anything that might get us in trouble. If that's something that we have to keep to ourselves, or we can let people know.
No, you can tell anybody it's coming. That with the technology, the security, and the furnishings, those are typically not something that the general contractor bids out. It's usually on the owner, but we have asked Clint to bid it out. But we have to do the legwork prior to that.
But everybody else in the contracting world gets what they call the Dodge report. And the Dodge report is basically an overall of all the big projects coming up in an area. And then you've got all of these subcontractors that are aware of that. And any of them that are any size at all are going to be reading that report constantly.
Thank you, Joyce.
I'm already getting people
Hello?
asking me about the bids. Like companies I've never heard of. So,
Hello, what do you
Okay.
need?
Are we over your director's
No, I
report,
don't
or are
need
we
you.
still in there?
no, I was gonna just give you a quickie peek at some of the colors that we've picked. So this is the main color, and we're playing off of our branding colors. So this is for the adult area, a gray, a blue, and a, no, wait a minute. I'm sorry, I take that back. This is children's colors. But we've also added in yellow, because we want the children's area to be bright. And we've suggested a limey green and a orangey color, which we liked better than the coral color that they picked. So, which was horrible. And the yellow they picked was horrible.
And all the finishes like that, all the painting finishes, one of the stipulations is they have to be eggshell. And that has to do with how easily they're wiped down. We want no flat paint, because that is the hardest thing to keep clean, and it's you know, it absorbs everything. So that's one of the stipulations, was regardless of the color, the finish has to be eggshell.
And these were some of the colors for adult. It's like a navy blue, mint green, the gray, and again, the white, which is actually called whitetail. It's kind of an off-white, will be the base color. And the rest of these will just be accent colors. We don't know where yet. These are just colors that they suggested. The main bulk of the flooring will be a laminate, the LVT laminate. And this is kind of a grayish color. It doesn't translate well on the screen, but this will be throughout about 80% of the building, Joyce?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Really dark. That's pretty dark, isn't it?
No, it's really not.
Actually, it isn't. If you see it in person, it's not.
It's not.
All of the wood tones are dark. It makes it really dark. So we didn't go with a wood tone on them.
This is the laminate or look for the desks area. And then for the countertops is this, and you can't see it, but it's got flecks of the gray and browns in it. I can't remember what it's called, but it's not marble.
It's a man-made material.
Yeah.
It's a composite man-made material.
And then in the bathrooms on the walls, this will be the main tile, like a subway gray tile. And then accent colors of the colors I showed you earlier. And I don't know if you really can't see it here, but there's actually a pattern to this tile. One triangle is plain and the other is striped. So depending on how they put that tile in, it can look almost like wallpaper. So that'll be in the bathrooms. And I don't know what colors they're going to use or the pattern or any of that. This is just stuff that we picked. Then for the bathroom floors, we're looking at this lighter tile here. So the bathrooms will be tile. And I can't remember, the entryway may be tile too, but I don't remember on that.
Yeah.
And then in the children's department, we'll have behind the desk, there's going to be a counter with a sink so that if they do crafting, the kids can just go there to wash their hands rather than going to the bathroom. And we have these little tiles that are different colors that will be a pattern for the backsplash that play on those pops of color that we have in the department. So I think they've done a really good job. Carrie Smith is the designer. And the only thing we can't agree on right now is the carpet. There will be carpet in the story time area, in the reading area of the children's department, and in the reading area of adult. That's the only two places with carpet. And what they picked was ugly, and I'm not even going to show it to you.
It looks like asphalt with green growing up through it.
Yeah.
So
It looks better when I looked at the website for the company, the Shaw carpet. When you see it all in one big picture, but it's still ugly. You just can't get away from the ugly. So in the story time area, we really want that to be something really cool. And if we do the trees, the idea is for that carpet to mimic sort of a leaf pattern. And I know that they're going to come up with something a lot better. The only thing we could agree on is that we like green. So, but we couldn't agree on the shade of green. I like the limey green, and Cindy Frazier likes this darker forest green. So maybe they can come up with a blend of the two. But
Yeah.
I don't know how big the
Mix.
areas are, but maybe you could look at rugs for like the story time area.
it's too big.
Too big?
Yeah, it's quite a large area. It's several hundred square feet. We have done that, Katie, in the past, but this is going to be quite a bit bigger.
I just
So-
mentioned that because they usually have super cool rugs for children's area.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
if it comes down to that, we might actually do that. So, yeah. That's it.
I think
Okay, I need a
pretty-
motion.
I don't
I'm
know.
sorry.
I don't know.
What, Julie?
I think some of the colors are really dark. We're trying to brighten up the place, and then you got all these dark
They're
I
not
don't like,
things that are more
gray
purple,
is
more
depressing to me.
and
I
then
think it's
Yeah.
I think it's going to depend on where they put it. We haven't gotten into that, and it may be that we go with a lighter shade, but I didn't want to quibble too much over the paint colors with them until we kind of knew where they wanted to put the color, because it'll depend. If they're talking one wall, a dark gray might not be bad. I don't know.
this lady, who is she? Who is this girl?
Her name is Carrie, Kari. I think her last name is Smith, and she's with Paragon.
Okay.
See, I don't care for gray. It's depressing to me. So
I
there's
just
too
don't
much.
work.
I don't work well with designers. Just so you know.
Okay, we need
Sometimes you have to take a leap of faith, because that's what they have their degree in too. So I'm
Yeah,
trying to be
well.
positive. I'm being Pollyanna.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We need a motion to approve the director's report.
I moved.
I so
to
move.
approve it.
Katie and Janine.
Mhm.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Julie?
Yes.
Motion carried. Public financing for new Monette branch.
So I really need you all to make a decision if we can today. If we can't, and you still need more information, we need to probably do that by the April meeting. So if we have to do any kind of Standard & Poor's rating, that gives me time to work on that. But we need to get that money secured. So your two choices are Stiefel, that you heard from last month, and LJ Hart. And I do want to tell you that at first their follow-ups were a little annoying, but I have to say they came yesterday. They were in the area down at Cassville. I guess they're financing a Cassville school project. And so they wanted to stop by and just say hi. So I got to meet Larry Hart and Courtney, who is absolutely delightful. She has a 2.5-year-old and a 9-month-old, by the way. So they stopped on their way back to St. Louis. They actually drove to St. Louis, and that was pretty late in the day. But we had a nice conversation. He wanted me to relay to you all, if you have any questions, we could even call during the meeting. He wanted me also to relay to you how hard they would work for us. He said that in the past, he's tried to set up meetings with local bankers to really talk to them about how it benefits them to purchase the certificates of deposit, that they'll work really hard to get us the best rate that they can. They do serve a lot of different schools and other things in the area. We also had a recommendation through Janine from Sam Goodman, who worked with them on the county jail justice center, the Justice Center in Mount Vernon, because I guess they did the financing for that. So I'm not trying to push anybody in particular, but I do have to say I've been impressed that they really want the job and they have tried to stay in the forefront and offer, you know, whatever they need to do to get the job. I have not heard any follow-up from Steeple. That doesn't really mean anything, but Steeple's a much bigger company than LJ Hart, although when you look at the map of what LJ Hart covers, they cover almost every county in the state.
Well, I was leaning towards Stiefel just because they seemed like they would be more willing to help us. But it also seems like LJ Hart is doing everything they can to get this.
Yeah,
I did think their fees seemed higher, and it seemed like they were going to charge us whether we needed them to or not. You know, Stiefel mentioned we might not even need a Standards and Poor's rating.
Well, LJ Hart said that too. If you remember, they gave us what it would be with the rating and without the rating.
Okay. But it seemed like they were going to charge us either way, you know, and maybe that's just how it came across.
And I don't know. I know Stiefel can eat some of those costs, but you know, there's that part of me that says you're going to pay those costs somewhere. I don't know.
Just wanted to say, Sam Goodman just said that they really saved them money. He said they looked out for the client. He says he's worked with them more than once, but he said that they really saved them a lot of money on everything that he'd worked with them on. So I don't know either company. I'm just going on what Sam says because, you know, he's worked with them before. I don't know. Most of you, do you know Sam Goodman?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
I would believe anything Sam said. He just said, I just wanted to put in a good word for them because he said they're great to work with. They saved us lots of money. And he said they always have the client in mind. So
now we have used LJ Hart in the past on one of our projects years ago, and they were a good company to work with, I have to say. But that was the first time that the district had ever gone out for lease purchase certificates. So we were kind of, you know, really babies in that field. We had never done it. We didn't exactly know how the process was. And they basically just went step by step to lead us through that project. We had absolutely no trouble, and I don't think we will this time, selling those lease purchase certificates. The good thing about the district is we have always been in the black. We have never once been in the red. And so we have a good financial reputation, you know, for lenders. But they were very good to work with when we used them before. And I don't know anything really about Stiefel. They sound great. I mean, they've got a lot of good selling points, but they are, you know, mostly LJ Hart is a Missouri, you know, finance company, basically. But other than that, I don't know, but we have worked with them before.
I know that Stiefel, I believe, is the one that financed Neosho. And they also have financed the big project that Mid-Continent Public Library is doing up in the Kansas City metro area. But
does somebody remember their difference in fees? Like dollar amounts?
I think it was half.
Yes, some of them were significant.
The Stiefel was definitely cheaper.
The annual was cheaper. And I think some of the other upfront fees were cheaper. But like you said, so we're going to pay somewhere. You know, it'll come back somewhere.
I just want to make sure whoever we pick has our best interest at heart and is easy to get in contact and work with. Because that's going to be key. And, you know, you all really emphasized wanting to stay local with the certificates. And I have to say, of the two presentations, LJ Hart really pushed about the local. I mean, he's really taken that to heart, and he mentioned that again when they were here. Stiefel, if I remember right, said that they would try.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I remember too.
Okay, so.
I
Has
think
everybody,
either way we go, I think we can't go wrong. So it's really, I mean, I'll work with whoever you all pick, but I do have to say I was impressed with LJ Hart. Does anybody have experience with either of these companies? Have you served on school boards, or do you want?
Mount Vernon is doing LJ Hart with their new school building.
I think Monad is too, I believe.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
'Cause I
lots
asked
of-
about that.
yeah.
They're
could
making
ask-
a lot of money off of this area.
I could ask whoever's at Cassville that they're dealing with if you guys wanted me to.
I mean, if you would like, we could try to get some people to speak in favor of either of them. I just hate to keep putting it off.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like we're discussing the same things that we discussed before, so I think we've probably got the information that we need to make a
I think
decision.
we,
Does anybody else feel that way too, or is that just me?
No, I do.
think so.
And
I think we know.
I mean, I don't mind asking
vote.
for more if we think that we need more, but if we feel like we have all the information we need, we should just go ahead and pull the
Take a
trigger.
vote. I agree. It's been cutting in and out for me. I've only heard parts of your comments, but
They were fascinating. You missed the really good parts, Gina. That's too bad. Well,
thanks, Joyce.
Yeah, that's okay.
It sounds like somebody playing the piano, actually.
Wow.
Huh.
You didn't want me to do that during this? Okay, then I
No.
won't. I'll
Okay.
stop.
Huh.
go ahead, Mindy. Serenade.
Okay, so we need a motion to, how
Well,
do we write?
Do you want to do a quick poll and just get a raise of hands for who would vote either way?
Okay.
Okay, so you're
So-
making a motion to award the finance bid to,
Well, first, we're going to just poll to see who is
Who
in
wants
favor
what?
of what, and then we'll make a motion to approve them.
Okay.
Okay, so all in favor of Stiefel? All in favor of LJ Hart? Okay, we need a motion to approve LJ Hart.
I'll make the motion.
Appoint the financial institution to LJ Hart.
I'll
And a
second.
second, Deborah? All in favor of approving LJ Hart for our financial?
You
All
get
opposed?
Katie,
Katie opposes. So
Okay.
motion passes with one no.
okay,
Do we need each one's vote for that?
I don't think so, because everybody raised their hands, and so I'll do it as a poll on the minutes.
Okay,
I wish Mr. Piter was here. Is he okay?
he had
an
other
appointment.
doctor's appointments was
Yeah.
what he had. But he would have liked to have heard that. We were the same way this morning because he
Yeah.
loves the finance part of it.
Mhm.
But I don't
Okay.
think he sat in on any of well, he might have the Stiefel. I don't think he was in on the LJ Hart one.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay, meeting room use for library and public.
So I'm getting a lot of questions from the branches, especially knowing that many people are now getting vaccinated. And so I think it's time for us to have that discussion about opening up our meeting room use and when we want to do that. So we need to make a decision on if we want to do that for the public and the library, or just the library, or just the public. So and what I looked at was many of our meeting rooms still have a lot of stuff in them. So they would be limited on how many people they could do. My suggestion would be to allow the public to use the meeting rooms and the library programming. I'm just going to put this out there and then you all can discuss it. Allow the library to do programming on a case-by-case basis based on a recommendation from the supervisor to the regional office about how many people they think could socially distance as long as they're wearing masks. Let's say June 1st. I'm just picking June 1st as a date because it gives a little bit more time for people to get vaccinated. And maybe if we have a surge, for that to kind of calm down. So it would just depend on, like here, we don't have a meeting room, so it's really a moot point. But it may be that like at Mount Vernon, they could only do 5 people. But we do have some book clubs where there's 5 people and they'd really like to meet in the meeting room. They've been meeting off-site, which is also a library program. In some cases, if we've got summer reading coming up, and my thought was that as long as they said that it would be a group of 10 and they have a sign up and they keep to the 10, then they could have that 10, and they could also film that program and put it on YouTube as long as they don't film the kids. So, and then I think our other target date would be September 1st. Our target would be to allow everything just to go back to normal on the 1st. Before we discuss that, the other thing to consider is, I think to make this happen, we have a lot of furniture put away. And I personally think we can go ahead and put that furniture out. They're sanitizing every day. I'm not terribly worried about people getting COVID from the furniture. We don't have as many people in the buildings, and we can ask them to socially distance, continue to do that. The toys and things, that is another one where I think we probably ought to wait to put the toys and things out until the end of the summer. Because we all know, if all of y'all that have had kids know, they put stuff in their mouths and it's gross. And so maybe just don't want to take that chance with the toys and all the touching and stuff. I mean, you
Right.
all ultimately have to make that decision, but that's sort of where I'm thinking.
Well, according to the newest CDC data, we've got viruses out there, variants that we know nothing about. And some of them are quite virulent and easily transmittable. We already have surges in, was it 9 states, I think, this morning, with additional.
Missouri is one of the highest.
Yeah.
Right.
Just so you know.
In my opinion, I think we might be a little premature to have this discussion just yet. We only have, what was the percentage of vaccination this morning? Was it 20%
Yeah.
of American
It's low.
adults?
Low, very low.
Yeah. So we're a long ways away from herd immunity and a long ways away from what we can do to protect anyone. I mean, I want to open the library too. I want people back in there. I just want them to take a book and not a virus home with them.
Yeah. So, now I do have to say, as far as contact, touching materials and so forth, it has not been proven that you get COVID from touching
no.
something. It's
No.
airborne. So I
Mhm.
do think putting the furniture and stuff out is pretty safe. I just
yeah.
don't want to take the chance on the toys because I know kids, that's a lot of work for people to have to sanitize those toys multiple
Yeah.
times a day.
Will we keep, if we put the furniture back out, will we keep the restriction on how many people can be in the building at a time? Because
Oh,
what
yeah.
that says to me is that if we've got a circle of chairs, that's a place people are going to want to congregate.
No,
And we are
we've
all
not,
hungry for being with other people.
we've not changed. In fact, I don't think it's really been a problem in the branches that we've had. Sometimes they might have one extra person and I've told them just to make that judgment, but we're not having excessive numbers of people in the building. I don't anticipate that happening because we have a lot of people that are still kind of worried. So,
Yeah.
but we have a lot of people that stop wearing their masks too, because
I appreciate
Yeah,
what you're
right.
I don't know what guidelines we have to follow, local, state, and federal, with what the library does, but what you're recommending, does that follow those? And another thing is, what are other libraries doing? Are they opening their meeting rooms?
it's all, we just had a meeting, I think it was last Friday, or might have been the Friday before, and it's all over the place. It really depends on the area of the state. We've got Stone County over here who never really made many changes. They're doing in-person programming. They have their stuff out. Now they have gotten rid of a lot of their soft surface furniture, which we have not done that because we just can't afford to replace all our furniture. But and then you've got other places that they just now have opened their doors to the public. So it's all over the spectrum. It's really on a case-by-case basis. There's no state mandate for libraries. It's really up to the boards to make that decision. I'm not saying that we have to decide today. I just think it would be helpful to tell the staff we could say we're targeting June 1.
Yeah.
If things get
Right, you're right.
worse, it's going to be pushed back.
Right.
But if it gets better, then we'll move ahead with that. Because I think that helps them with their customers to say they're discussing it, but we're just not going to do anything right now. I wouldn't do it right now. I wouldn't do it till
I
June
wouldn't either.
1st.
I wouldn't
Because
either.
that's why I said until we see the variants, the different virus strains, how that comes through, and hopefully we start having more vaccines. Because isn't the goal to have vaccines by the end of May?
Well, we have vaccines, but there are lots of people who just they're not going to get them. And in Pierce City, I can tell you in Pierce City, when I go downtown, there's only 2 places in town where even the people working there put on a mask. One person, a 20-year-old in the grocery store, and Friendly Supply. That's the only place in town anybody has a mask on. When we go in Walmart, no masks, even though it says right on the door. And we've asked about it and they say, we can't make them. So that's what you're going to get into. You're still going to have people that are going to come in. They're going to be coughing and, doing their thing, and they're not going to put one on. They're not.
That is a problem because there's not a statewide mandate about masking.
Right.
So even in the library, if somebody makes a big stink about it, there's really not anything we can do.
Exactly. Yeah. I've asked everybody that has the sign on the door, but you go in and you run face into people that nobody has them on, whole families of them.
How many of you all I've gotten my first vaccine.
Got my first.
I've got my first. I
We've
get
had
my
most of
second one
ours.
next week.
I get my
Larry,
second one at the end of the month.
Me
'Cause
too.
Okay.
Well, before you get your second one, drink lots of fluid the day before and the day of, and it really does reduce the number of symptoms you feel afterward.
Well, I had no trouble with my first one.
I didn't
Me
either.
either. Me either, but the second one was different. So And we were Pfizer. I don't know if it makes any difference whether you're Pfizer or
That's what I had was
Okay, that's what I
Pfizer.
was too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I
Thank you
would
for
be
that.
really comfortable if we would target looking at this at our May meeting to make a
Okay.
decision one way or another. And that would still meet your hopeful date of June 1st to reopen if we discuss it in May. And that's a
Okay.
full 60 days. So we should be able to have some pretty good data at that point where we are. Does
Okay.
anybody else feel comfortable with that too?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good with
Sounds
that.
good.
I would rather err on the side of caution,
Would
but
too.
Agreed.
because I've gotten so many questions, I told them I would put it on the agenda to discuss
Yeah,
because it's coming up more. And it's like you said, because people have decided I'm just not going to wear a mask and I want everything to go back
Right.
to normal.
Yeah.
And I just keep saying the board has to make that decision. I'm not going to give you permission. We do have a lot. I have given permission. They do meetings outside. They have been going to other locations where they have bigger spaces to socially distance than our meeting rooms. Some places are doing one-on-one programming. Like Jana does a lot of that. And then she does have the toys, but she sanitizes afterwards. But really she's probably the only one doing a lot of the one-on-one. So, and then the teens meet here, but they socially distance and there's only a handful of them. So,
we are all hungry for people. We are
yeah.
social and we want to be with our people. We all are.
I just want to be responsive for the supervisors because they're the ones taking the flack.
Agreed.
And just to be able to say, we talked about it, this is what we want to do, and to let them know we'll make a decision in May about
I think
doing
that's
this in June.
Yeah.
I'm
And
comfortable with that.
what do you want to do about the furniture? You want to just leave it in place in the meeting room since we're not going to do anything right now and we'll just wait and put it out later?
Might
I
as
say
well.
wait. Yeah.
Really, really that was a direct result of if we have to use the meeting room, some stuff has to come out of the meeting rooms.
Yeah.
I would just wait
Okay.
on everything because with
Okay.
there's more furniture out,
Yeah.
that looks like we're inviting more people. in.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so
agree.
what I'll tell the supervisors is that we'll talk about it in May to see if we can start June 1. And then we'll target our next target date will be September 1, but we wouldn't make a decision until the August meeting. And then everything stays in place in the meeting rooms, the furniture and the toys. Something else. What was the other thing? I think that was it, wasn't it?
Mhm.
I think
so.
that's prudent, and especially when you've already told them they can do outdoor
Oh.
meetings and things when
Right.
with the weather getting better.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with that.
And I'll make sure that they're sticking with the guidelines for how many people can be in the building. Pretty sure that they are. Can't think of anything recently that has come up that they're not doing that, but I'll just make sure.
And
Okay.
it's been a big help to them that we're no longer quarantining the materials that are
Yeah.
coming back, because that made it even worse because all of that had to be stored in the conference rooms because we had no place to store anything. So that's helped them some, just not being able to do that.
They were
Okay.
very glad to be able to
Mhm.
just go ahead and put stuff out. And a lot of libraries have started doing that or reducing the amount of quarantine. Some of them quarantined a long time that we could never have done.
Yeah,
So,
that
and they're
weeks. So that
they're
was,
continuing to wipe materials down, which we need to do anyway because we want our stuff to be clean. Because it's, people are gross. It's the truth.
Okay.
I mean, it's the truth. Even when they don't mean to be, little kids, they
Yeah.
chew on things. It's just the reality.
they're just
how many
hygiene.
kids-
They're hygiene challenged.
I love watching little kids come in the library because you know exactly where they're going to touch. They have to touch that
Everything.
spin rack or they have to touch that chair. And if the brother does it, the sister does it. And then so yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other business? Well, then we need a motion to adjourn.
Wow.
And it's not even 11?
No,
No, right,
still.
Okay.
we have 10 minutes.
So who
So we have
made a?
Katie and Julie,
Katie
Okay.
first and I'll second.
all in favor.
Right.
It's always
Motion
unanimous. I
carried.
don't understand.
I don't either. See you next month, ladies.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.